they're known as two of the music industry's best vocal coaches. However, away from show business, today they're talking about their very special family, living with 3 daughters who all have conditions that range from autism to dyslexia, and how it affects their family unit and how they deal with their children. It's great to see them.
Yeah. Our first guests this morning are best known for their careers as vocal coaches, but away from the day jobs, Carrie and David Grant enjoy the role they both value most, and that is being parents. They have got 3 daughters under 20 and an adopted son, and they have this approach, this one-size-fits-all approach. They say doesn't work for their particular family. Why is that?
Well, that's because each one of those children has what Carrie and David describe as kind of special needs, from autism to ADHD to dyslexia, and they're here to talk about how they deal with it, really. The word special needs, are you OK with that, or do you think
I love the way that we're still at the point in society where we're stumbling over these words, like, is it OK to say special needs? It's fine to say special needs. We see them as more special than needy, but yeah, it's OK.
Yeah. I read your story in a Sunday newspaper a few weeks ago, and I was actually very humbled, because we all have pressures in life, and I know you guys professionally. I had no idea about this insight into your family. 3 of your children, they're your own children, and then you have the adopted son, who we can say less about because of conditions with that. But Olivia, first of all, Olivia's condition is what? Olivia's 18.
Yeah.
And
she has ADHD and dyspraxia. So she, I think when you have your first child, you sort of think, this is normal, this is what a normal person is. And then the school start, calling you in and saying, oh, she's having problems with this and with that. And for a while, we just kind of went, no, she's just quirky and different, and that's fine. But she was struggling at school. And so by the time she was 11, we had her tested, and that came up with dyspraxia. And then more recently...
And what is dyspraxia?
So dyspraxia is your motor skills. So quite often, like, one of the first things for us is we love dancing. We're both very rhythmical. I was a dancer when I first left school. And then we'd look at Olivia and go, why can't this kid dance? That's not right.
Yeah, I'd be looking at her thinking, there's a gene missing there somehow, because, she should be able to move in. But she was dancing to a rhythm going on in her head.
But had you noticed something that you maybe didn't realise was different, but before the school highlighted it? Were there things she was doing that you thought...
Not really. I think when she was little, not really. She's just very outgoing, very loud. But, we're both loud, so we're likely to produce loud children.
Very easily distracted.
But also fine motor skills. So, so not just rhythm, but also things like writing. So once those things come in at school, it was really noticeable that all her letters were back to front. Or...
Well, that's Olivia. Talia, who is 11. Yeah. David, what conditions does she have?
Talia has Asperger's, which is on the autism spectrum. She is incredibly literal. She's absolutely brilliant, just hugely talented at the things that she cares about, and focuses almost entirely on those things. You know what I mean? Yeah. She like, if it's dance, she'll watch it, she'll obsess about it, she'll learn it, she'll be totally into it, and at that moment, not particularly interested in anything else. But she's an amazing child. I just look at these children and I think they're so individual, they're so amazing. The challenge for us, really, Eamonn and Ruth, is to raise them in the way that they should be raised, because they're all entirely different in their requirements.
You said this kind of one-size-fits-all parenting just wouldn't work for you, would it? Whether it's disciplining, whether you...
We had this idea that, like, because we've been with each other 27 years, and we're like, when we have children, they're all going to sit in a restaurant at those lovely Spanish families where they all sit there and they're all, like, really well-behaved, and the granny's there, and
people walk past and they say, your children are marvellous. And you go, yes, that's right.
Instead, we have what we call the zoo. So we have children, if they all stay on their seats, that's like such a big achievement.
Well, because then you've got Imogen, of course, who's 7, and Imogen has autism.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, there's a spectrum of autism, isn't there?
So she's high-function autism, but, Imogen is totally magical. So she will shout out if she wants to. If she's got something to say, she'll shout it loudly across the restaurant or wherever you happen to be in public. She'll cover her ears if things are too noisy. But those things might be difficult and might make life difficult. If you're trying to take a child out and you need to take them to the loo in public and someone puts the hand dryer on outside the toilet, she will just get off the toilet and run away. So it's just... having to manage
How
all
do you
those
deal with that?
noises.
Because I have a friend whose son has Asperger's, and she said and he's a delightful child and so bright and clever and funny, but he has certain social kind of issues. So she said, do you tell people when you're out? So if your daughter suddenly screams because somebody's put the hand dryer on, do you feel the need to explain that to people, or apologise?
That's a really, really good question.
good
I think
question.
sometimes I feel it slightly like I want a big sign above our head saying, this is actually a good day.
Well, I saw a child once on a train with a T-shirt and he said, I'm not naughty, I've got autism.
Yeah,
because
not
people
naughty,
go,
just
that
naughty.
child, sit down.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. You know, what I think a lot of parents feel is an incredible pressure to succumb to the social expectations that other people have of their children.
Yes.
You feel almost like...
But then
I
think that requires
naughty
incredible
child.
strength on your behalf. And we continue this story because then you have this adopted son who's 3. And as if you hadn't got enough to deal with, again, my admiration goes out to anyone who fosters or adopts. But you had this vocation, this calling of doing this. But from an authority point of view, if they look at your 3 other children, would they not say, this couple have got a lot to deal with already?
Yeah.
Does that make you less likely? Surely it would have made you less likely to be candidates for adoption.
No, they were throwing kids at us.
Why?
Because we've been married 25 years, we're a mixed race couple, we've got all these children with special needs. It's like,
And we're
how many
dealing
do you
with
want?
The other thing as well is within the adoption system, once a child who's either black or mixed race, any kind of ethnic minority child, reaches a certain age, which is usually like 3 or 4, their chances of being adopted full-time diminish massively.
Yes.
And, you know, we just looked at it and said, we can do this. We're capable of doing this. We have the space to do this.
But why were you able to say this? This is what I think makes you exceptional, because so many of us in our day-to-day life, and I mean, again, I have a bit of an insight into what you do because you're in this business. You have an awful lot to deal with logistically, and then you've chosen to give yourself another complication here. Why?
I think it's that we don't see that as a complication.
Right.
I mean, I just see that too many children are in care, we've got an extra bedroom, we can deal with 3 children with special needs, stick a 4th in there, really? It's not a big deal.
Well, that is brilliant. And how much of that attitude is the way, when we see you on TV programmes mentoring people and teaching people, do you carry that into your personal life and things come very naturally to you?
Actually, we do. I think it's when you see us doing that, it's simply an extension of who we are. You know, we have the opportunity, which is very rare and wonderful, like a lot of us in the business have, of being who we are for a living. You know, and doing the things that we do and we're passionate about and skilled at for a living. So one of the things that we do is that we really actually care about people reaching their potential, becoming the best that they can be.
And
not just
treating
in singing,
your
in every
children as
way.
the individuals they are, which actually we should all do, whether they have, you know, special
Absolutely.
needs as people or not.
Yeah, I think that the word neurodiversity has to be a word that we all get a little bit more used to. And that's something we're passionate about seeing. And diversity, I mean, we've always been about diversity. When we first met, there weren't loads and loads of mixed race couples. So that was like, OK, we're different. So it's learning to not just accept difference, but actually celebrate difference. And look at the different ways that we think, look at the different ways we learn. That's why we've got the books that we've got out at the moment, just to show, actually, there's different ways of learning. Let's have different ways of accessing learning. So everything we do is about difference. It's about celebrate those individuals.
Have you never been in a situation where it's really got too much for you and that you are drained? Anybody with their children can be drained. To have 4 children will drain anyone.
Listen, there'll be people watching this now, Eamonn, who've got 4 kids who are like, they're frazzled and at the end of their tether. There'll be people watching this who have got children with needs, who will also be at the end of their tether. I think every parent, whether you've got 1 or a dozen, you get to a point sometimes where you just want to climb a wall and scream. That's not just because we have who we have, that's everybody. So yeah, of course we've been there. But the point is that there is always something that brings you back to a remembrance that A, you love these children, and B, they are incredible. You know, our children all have needs, but if we manage to extricate from them the fullness of the potential that's in them, they're all going to be extraordinary kids.
Well, listen, they're very lucky children. You know, we know you, and the way you talk and the way you deal with it all, they're very lucky children to have you as parents. And thank you for talking about it today. As you said, each time we talk about it, it makes it, you know...
And thank you to Olivia and Talia and Imogen and your adopted son, who we can't talk about for legal reasons because of the adoption
And if you would
situation.
like any more information about anything we've talked about, there's some of the conditions we've mentioned. Go to have a look at our website, more details on
It's
that.
lovely. One of the nice things in this programme is to find out about people's lives and to share people's lives with you at home, and I'm sure you'll be doing that in reverse. But thank you, David and Carrie, very much,
Thank you.
much indeed.